You've recently stated that NASA is maybe concealing the truth about 3I Atlas.
NASA did release images in the past, but the best image is yet to come. It was obtained on October 2nd when the object was 30 million kilometers away from Mars, and the high-rise camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter took the very sharpest image of it, and we really want to see that image. However, the claim is that because of the government shutdown, we are not able to see it.
The shutdown, the night NASA's telescope went dark. There are moments in history when silence says more than sound. On the night of October 18, 2025, every telescope in the world pointed toward a small, dim patch of sky near the constellation Pegasus. What they saw, or rather what they didn't, would ignite one of the strangest mysteries NASA has ever faced. At exactly 02:37 a.m. Eastern Time, a high-resolution feed from NASA's NEOWISE Deep Space Observatory froze mid-frame. For 9 seconds, data continued to stream. Then, nothing. The telescope, orbiting 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, went dark without warning. NASA's mission control staff assumed it was a standard technical hiccup. Systems go down, glitches happen. But this time, the problem wasn't the feed, it was the signal itself, cut clean, like a blade slicing through silence. No recovery attempt worked. Backup relays failed. Redundant nodes showed hardware offline, and within minutes, the agency's internal network was sealed. Within 2 hours, NASA issued a one-line statement to international partners. NEOWISE has entered safe mode for recalibration. But inside the building, sources later revealed there was no recalibration, there was panic. For decades, NEOWISE had been NASA's eye on the deep frontier, the most advanced infrared observatory ever built, capable of spotting heat signatures from objects billions of kilometers away. Unlike Hubble or Webb, NEOWISE wasn't designed to capture beauty. It was designed to capture movement, specifically the trajectories of near-Earth and interstellar objects that could pose a threat. Asteroids, comets, debris, even rogue interstellar rocks. If it glowed, NEOWISE could see it. That night, it had been tracking something cataloged as 3I Atlas, an object first detected weeks earlier, moving at a velocity inconsistent with any natural orbit. It wasn't just passing through our solar system, it was adjusting its path, almost as if under intelligent control. Scientists initially dismissed the idea. There were precedents. Oumuamua in 2017, Borisov in 2019, both interstellar visitors with peculiar shapes and speeds. But 3I Atlas behaved differently. According to leaked internal memos later obtained by an anonymous engineer, NEOWISE registered micro-course corrections in the object's trajectory, tiny shifts that couldn't be explained by gravity or radiation pressure alone. That meant one of two things. Either there was a fundamental flaw in the data, or something out there was moving with intention. Within minutes of the feed freezing, mission telemetry teams scrambled to re-establish contact. The first suspicion, a solar flare. It wasn't uncommon for solar storms to disrupt communications. But every major observatory on Earth confirmed no flare activity. Next theory, internal system malfunction. But the backup system showed no sign of failure. The telescope had not just shut down, it had been shut down. An emergency meeting was convened in Building 31 at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. 12 senior engineers, 3 directors, and 2 external defense representatives joined the call. Minutes into the meeting, the conversation shifted from what happened to what was it looking at. Dr. Elaine Rogers, chief astrophysicist on the NEOWISE project, was the first to speak on record. We lost power 3 minutes after Atlas emitted a thermal spike. It wasn't random. The spectrum looks engineered. Engineered was not a word anyone in the room wanted to hear, she explained. The object's infrared signature had briefly flashed, not steadily, not chaotically, but in a sequence. 3 bursts. Pause, 2 bursts. Pause, 1. Some thought it might have been an anomaly, cosmic interference, instrument echo. Others weren't so sure. The sequence matched the pattern of a binary pulse, a system used in early radio communications. For a moment, no one spoke. Then a voice from the defense liaison broke the silence. "Are you suggesting it was signaling us?" Rogers didn't answer. She didn't have to. What happened next never appeared in any official record. At 03:11 a.m., NASA's internal database logged a remote command: "Override Protocol 21, full diagnostic lockdown." Every terminal connected to NEOWISE was immediately sealed behind classified clearance. Access was revoked for civilian scientists. The project effectively ceased to exist for the night. By morning, the only public message was a short tweet from NASA's main account. "Our team is currently performing maintenance on the NEOWISE telescope. We'll update soon." No update ever came. Weeks passed. Astronomers worldwide noticed the data gap. Amateur observers asked questions online. Why had NEOWISE, the crown jewel of orbital detection, gone completely silent? NASA's response remained mechanical: system maintenance, calibration, technical difficulties. But a few insiders began whispering to journalists that something didn't add up. The telescope hadn't failed. It had been ordered to shut down. Inside JPL, tension was growing. Engineers who had worked years on NEOWISE found themselves locked out of their own data. They were told to redirect their focus to less sensitive monitoring programs. Some complied, others didn't. One systems analyst, known only by the alias Kara, claimed to have seen the raw pre-shutdown telemetry logs. According to her, the final images captured by NEOWISE showed an object with a structured outline, unlike any asteroid or comet ever observed. She described it as too symmetrical, with reflective surfaces that suggested manufactured material. When she brought it up in a debrief, a senior supervisor allegedly told her to delete the data immediately. The reason given: national security classification. A few days later, her building access was revoked. She left NASA quietly and vanished from public record soon after. By late November 2025, fragments of this story began leaking onto astronomy forums. Users speculated wildly: alien craft, government weapon, secret probe. Then came a post from an account labeled Atlas Watcher, claiming to have downloaded NEOWISE's thermal imaging cache seconds before the shutdown. The images were blurry but unmistakable: an elongated object, metallic, reflecting faint radiation in a way consistent with high-density alloys. Not a rock, not ice, something constructed. The post went viral, triggering a storm of denial, ridicule, and censorship. Within 24 hours, it was gone, scrubbed from every platform. The user's account was deleted, IP trace blocked. NASA, when asked, called it fabricated misinformation. But privately, several astrophysicists admitted the heat signature in those leaked frames matched the official data they'd seen before being locked out. Something was definitely out there. What made the case even stranger was what followed: a pattern of blackouts. In the months after NEOWISE's silence, at least 3 other observatories, one in Chile, one in Spain, and one in Australia, reported sudden, unexplained data interruptions when tracking the same coordinates. Each time, the disruption lasted exactly 7 minutes. Each time, the systems rebooted automatically afterward. And each time, any trace of what had been recorded disappeared. To the scientific community, it felt coordinated, as if something or someone didn't want 3i Atlas being watched. Journalist Mara Tennant, who'd covered aerospace for nearly 2 decades, began piecing together a timeline of what she called the Atlas blackout. Her research uncovered that just days before NEOWISE went dark, NASA's cybersecurity division had quietly signed a joint protocol agreement with the Department of Defense, one that allowed military override of space-based observation assets during potential contact scenarios. The public didn't know such a clause existed. If what NEOWISE saw was classified as a potential contact that could legally justify its sudden shutdown. Tennant tried to reach out to her NASA contacts, but one by one, they stopped responding. One finally replied, anonymously, "It's bigger than what anyone thinks, and no, it's not a rock." Her articles were published briefly, then retracted after editorial review. Within days, her press credentials were suspended. Meanwhile, in independent research circles, speculation reached fever pitch. Astrophysicists analyzed the trajectory of 3I Atlas and found that after NEOWISE's last reading, it began slowing down, a phenomenon impossible for a natural object without propulsion. Then, the strangest part, it vanished. By mid-December, the object disappeared entirely from radar and infrared detection. No debris, no trace. It simply faded from every instrument tracking it. Some theorized it accelerated away at a speed too high for current sensors. Others claimed it went dark deliberately, a maneuver used to avoid detection. NASA, for its part, maintained silence. The agency never published a final report on 3I Atlas. No mention of it appeared in its 2025 year-end database. It was as if the event had never happened. But in January 2026, something unexpected happened. An internal email chain leaked to several journalists showing a directive titled Observational Moratorium, Object 3I Atlas. The directive explicitly prohibited any NASA or partner telescope from releasing raw data or imagery related to the object pending further classification review. The leak confirmed what many had suspected. This wasn't a technical failure. It was an intentional blackout. Why? That question still divides scientists today. Some believe NASA discovered an artifact, possibly artificial, entering our solar system. Others argue it was a classified military probe from another nation. But there's a third possibility, one that terrifies even the most rational minds, that whatever NEOWISE saw, it wasn't coming toward Earth by accident. And so, as the world slept that October night, a telescope 1.5 million kilometers away went silent. Officially, it was maintenance. Unofficially, it was something else, a moment when humanity may have glimpsed proof of intelligent design beyond Earth, only to have the truth sealed away in encrypted archives. The question isn't whether NASA saw something. It's why, when they did, they chose silence over revelation. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries don't vanish by accident. They vanish by order. The object, inside the data, NASA tried to erase. The morning after the NEOWISE blackout, the world carried on unaware. Markets opened, satellites orbited, news anchors discussed politics, not plasma. But in one windowless building in Pasadena, 12 people gathered in silence, staring at a frozen image on a flickering screen. It was the last frame transmitted from the NEOWISE Deep Space Observatory before it shut down. At first glance, it looked like nothing, a blur of light against deep space. But when the image was filtered, enhanced, and compared against stellar background references, something extraordinary emerged. A shape. Not a sphere, not a rock, not a comet. It was long, narrow, and symmetrical, like a ship's hull, measuring nearly 400 meters in length and glinting faintly under infrared scan. The object reflected light in a way no natural body could. It wasn't tumbling randomly like an asteroid. It was rotating, slowly, evenly, with mathematical precision. And that was only the beginning. Dr. Elaine Rogers leaned forward in disbelief. She'd spent 20 years studying plasma scattering and debris fields, but what she saw didn't behave like debris at all. "This isn't natural motion," she whispered. "It's stabilized." Stabilized, that one word, changed everything in the room. If the rotation was intentional, it implied control, and control implied design. They ran models for hours. Could solar wind account for the movement? Could micro-impacts have balanced the spin? Each simulation failed. The only consistent explanation was active stabilization, an adjustment process meant to maintain equilibrium. By 5 a.m., one engineer asked what everyone else was afraid to say aloud: "Are we looking at a probe?" No one answered. For context, 3I Atlas wasn't new to NASA. It had been detected months earlier by Japan's Subaru telescope as an interstellar object entering the solar system at a shallow angle. The 3I designation meant it was the third recorded object of confirmed interstellar origin after Oumuamua and Borisov. But even then, its trajectory was suspicious. Instead of slingshotting past the sun like most visitors, it slowed down. Tiny velocity drops were logged every few weeks, impossible for an inert mass. At first, scientists assumed a data error, but the pattern held across multiple instruments. Now, with NEOWISE's infrared data, they had the missing piece: heat fluctuations synchronized with those velocity changes. In other words, the object was producing controlled bursts of thermal energy, propulsion. Hours after NEOWISE's feed was cut, encrypted messages began to circulate within NASA's internal channels. A restricted access server labeled Project Atlas Red appeared. It required triple authentication. Only select defense and propulsion experts were given clearance. Inside, they analyzed the data stream frame by frame. What they found would never make it into public archives. The infrared emissions from 3I Atlas didn't resemble chemical or plasma exhaust. They formed narrow, directed lines, too consistent for random outgassing. And the spectral analysis revealed trace emissions of an unknown alloy composition, highly reflective, non-crystalline, and radiating faint magnetism. One physicist summarized it bluntly: "It's not natural. Whatever it is, someone built it." That message was redacted within the hour. Meanwhile, whispers began leaking through unofficial channels. In December 2025, a small group of astrophysicists from Europe's ESO observatory received fragments of the same data through an unmarked relay server. Someone inside NASA had sent it anonymously. The group, led by Dr. Henrik Dahl, ran the files through independent analysis. The results mirrored what NASA had already seen: a perfectly symmetrical object emitting pulsed infrared radiation at regular intervals. Dahl described it in his notes as a deliberate beacon pattern. He wrote, "The signal is not chaotic. It repeats at a 41-second interval. The delay is uniform, suggesting an encoded transmission. We may be looking at the first instance of directed communication through heat frequency." Before his paper could be submitted, government officials contacted his university, warning against publishing sensitive material. 2 days later, the data vanished from his servers. The leak stopped. Inside NASA, the debate split the agency into factions. One side, the pragmatists, insisted it was a rogue asteroid coated with metallic minerals. An oddity, yes, but explainable. The other, the anomalists, argued the evidence was overwhelming. 3I Atlas was not behaving like any natural object. A memo dated October 25th, later leaked to journalists, showed the tension in writing. Infrared data suggests deliberate modulation of heat emissions. Until proven otherwise, we must treat this object as potentially artificial. Recommend coordination with defense and cybersecurity agencies. The word artificial was circled in red by a NASA administrator and replaced with anomalous. Semantics, perhaps, but one that changed the narrative completely. Then came the signal. 3 weeks after NEOWISE's blackout, a small radio observatory in New Mexico detected an ultra-narrowband transmission originating near the same coordinates where 3I Atlas had last been seen. The frequency, 1420-4056 MHz, was the exact wavelength of hydrogen, often used in SETI research as the universal channel for potential extraterrestrial contact. The signal lasted 11 minutes before fading out. It wasn't a continuous tone, it was a pattern. Short bursts of 3, then 1, then 2. When converted to binary and mapped, it formed repeating sequences that resembled mathematical ratios, specifically ratios corresponding to the structure of hydrogen itself. It was as if someone, or something, was broadcasting, "We understand your physics." NASA didn't acknowledge the transmission publicly, but emails between SETI researchers and government contractors, later exposed through anonymous leaks, confirmed they had received and analyzed it. Their conclusion? The signal's source is consistent with a fast-moving object leaving the solar system. No known satellite, probe, or terrestrial reflection can explain it. For the scientists involved, it was the most compelling contact candidate ever recorded. For the agencies above them, it was a potential crisis. Publicly admitting that an engineered object had entered and exited our solar system one that may have attempted communication, could destabilize geopolitics, religion, and global energy policy overnight. So the strategy became containment. Within days, both NASA and the European Space Agency issued near-identical press releases downplaying the detection. No confirmed signal has been verified from any interstellar source. Anomalous readings are consistent with natural radio interference. Privately, however, internal memos labeled the event as Class 3 contact possibility, a term used in restricted defense documents to describe non-human origin artifacts with directional control. That classification came with immediate consequences. All public data relating to 3I Atlas was sealed, partner observatories were ordered to purge raw files, and access to deep space tracking frequencies was quietly restricted. Even SETI, a civilian institute, was forced to suspend independent monitoring under a temporary review of data coordination protocols. Translation: the truth went dark. But not everyone stayed silent. A team of young data scientists from Caltech, working unofficially, used archived NEOWISE fragments to reconstruct the object's final recorded coordinates. Their analysis suggested that 3I Atlas didn't simply accelerate out of the solar system. It changed vector, aligning briefly with Earth's orbital plane before veering off. That brief alignment would have placed it approximately 0.24 AU, about 36 million kilometers, from Earth. Close enough, one scientist noted, for direct observation. They hypothesized that the thermal pulses seen before the blackout were not propulsion signatures, but communication bursts aimed directly at Earth. And if that was true, then NASA's sudden silence wasn't about what they saw. It was about what they heard. The data team attempted to publish their findings anonymously on ARQ under the title Analysis of Unusual Acceleration Patterns in Object 3I Atlas. The paper lasted less than 12 hours before being flagged and removed. Shortly after, two of the researchers received cease and desist letters, citing violations of classified research parameters. How a civilian university project could violate classified parameters was never explained. One of the students, speaking years later under pseudonym, said, "We weren't supposed to connect the dots. We weren't supposed to prove that it looked at us." Meanwhile, strange anomalies began surfacing across unrelated observatories. Radio arrays in South Africa, Italy, and Hawaii picked up weak echoes at the same hydrogen frequency every few nights, faint, intermittent, but repeating. They came from no fixed point, more like reflections, bouncing between unknown origins. Some scientists suggested the possibility that 3I Atlas had deployed smaller autonomous probes. Others said it could be debris scattering the signal. But one physicist from Kyoto University, analyzing the echoes, found something no one expected: time correction data embedded in the frequency drift. In simple terms, the echoes accounted for Earth's rotation and orbital motion, meaning the source was actively tracking our planet in real time. If true, that meant the object, or something derived from it, was still watching. By February 2026, pressure inside NASA reached breaking point. A series of internal meetings debated whether to disclose anything at all. Minutes from those meetings later leaked to investigative journalist Mara Tennant, who had already been following the case since NEOWISE's shutdown. One line from a March transcript stood out: "Public readiness is minimal. Disclosure carries high existential and socio-political risk. Recommend indefinite classification under defense authority." It was signed by a senior policy advisor attached to the Department of Energy. The word existential wasn't chosen lightly. For the first time in history, multiple scientific agencies believed they had indirect proof of engineered intelligence operating beyond Earth, and collectively agreed not to tell the world. In late April, a whistleblower known only as Helios uploaded 23 gigabytes of encrypted files to an offshore data drop. The files contained raw NEOWISE telemetry, private NASA chat logs, and partial signal analyses labeled Atlas Primary. Most of it was indecipherable, layers of code and time-stamped coordinates, but one section contained reconstructed imagery, a metallic surface, smooth, segmented, almost organic in pattern. Across one panel, faint etched markings appeared, not random, but geometric. Circles within triangles, mirrored arcs, sequences that mathematicians later identified as approximations of prime numbers. The markings weren't language as we know it, but they were deliberate. If real, they proved that the object wasn't just passing through, it was trying to be seen. Helios's data dump sent shock waves through scientific circles online, but major media ignored it entirely. Every outlet that began covering it suddenly dropped the story within days. The files were removed from every server hosting them. The original upload account vanished. Only fragments remain today, archived on private drives by a handful of researchers still trying to verify their authenticity. But even skeptics admit the patterns within those images are too precise to be coincidence. By mid-2026, the official stance was clear. 3I Atlas never existed as a classified anomaly.